Welcome to Get the Net, a fishing podcast that takes a deep dive into competitive events, fishing news, tips, tactics, and most importantly, interviews with some of the most interesting and in-tune anglers from Canada to the central U.S. We're leaving no stone unturned to bring you the most raw and authentic dock talk. My name is Jamie Bruce, and while my resume says bass, my frying pan says walleye, I'm no stranger to the multi-species realm. Whether you're puttering on tackle, driving the bus, cutting the grass, or killing time in a 9 to 5, we'll try to give you something in every episode to take with you on the water, or at the very least, bring you a few laughs. Okay, welcome back to Get the Net. We're back in the garage. Have a little bit of a break in the action between, work and a heavy derby schedule and everything that comes along with that. Figured we better pump out a podcast while we can. Have a little bit of a delay until the next tournament. Good to be back, but I'm sweating it a little bit. Like I said, finally have a break in the action, so I had a couple hours. I haven't had a couple free hours in quite a while, so I hopped on the exercise program. I try over the course of the tournament season every couple weeks to complete this thing called the Fit Pin, and it's just kind of like a standard physical test. It's like 1.5 miles and 37 push-ups for my age range. I just kind of use it as a baseline so I don't turn into an absolute piece of fishing garbage, living off deer pepperettes and grease wheels for a couple months in the summer. So I'm dying a little bit right now. I just finished and, now firing up this thing. So if there's a little bit of huffing and puffing going on, that's the big rig, kind of debriefing after what I just put my poor fishing body through. I look at it like if you want to fish for the long range, you can't let her go too bad. Obviously you have to step it up on that front a little bit better. There's guys that do it out there, like on the tour. There's John Cox and Jacob Porosnik. They're big rigs, but God, she's got to be hard on the knees and joints, and just can't be that fun when you start to creep up in your 50s. You don't see a whole lot of super out of shape guys fishing at a high level. So it's funny how fishing is kind of a motivator to be in better shape, but it's the way it goes. But yeah, I'm in my 30s and I can feel it already from not being in shape and being on the water. Like Big Buff came over at Sturgeon Bay this year, slid over to our boat, and he knew for sure I'd have ibuprofen because I'm a fellow big rig, and hit me up for some ibuprofen. And McNanny's just sitting there kicking back, watching us eat ibuprofen like Cheerios, and he's just like, yeah, it's hard on the big boys, just laying back 165 pounds, no problem. But anyway, enough jibber jabber. The KBI just wrapped up. I don't know how many years it's been. It's over 30. I think last year's the 30th anniversary or something. But anyway, I fished with Brian Gustafson again. First time in a few years that the tournament's been firing on all cylinders. It was canceled in 2020 because of the COVID deal. Last year they ran it. It was modified. There was limited crowds and a different way, and got through the tournament. Still a good tournament last year, but just not the same vibe. But this year, everything was back, full force, full crowd, an unreal event. That day 3 weigh-in is out of this world. The top 10 cut get pulled. I shouldn't call it a cut. The top 10 boats after 2 days get pulled through the tent. And I don't know what the number is, but it's a full big tent of people. Music's blaring, confetti's flying everywhere. I fished with Brian, so we always throw all kinds of loot out. Helps when your partner owns a tackle store. There's lots of swag, so I think people go extra nuts for that. We were hucking out a bunch of sun shirts and good stuff like that. Just so cool to be back there. There's really nothing to compare it to. Outside of Northwestern Ontario, I don't think there's any other tournaments that have a big tent ride style, mega crowd weigh-in like that. Honestly, the only one I can think of would be the Bassmaster Classic. And that, sounds pretty ignorant to say that it's the next comparable crowd to that, but I honestly think it is. I'm pretty sure there are more people at KBI this year than there have been at the Bass Pro Tour Red Crest the last 5 years combined. So it's, it's a real thing, and can't thank the volunteers and sponsors and the committee enough, and the community for coming and making the sport aspiring to young anglers. There's lots of kids that are helping out that are saying I'm going to hop in the tournament the next couple of years. And then there's some really young kids just there catching lollipops and checking out the big bass. And it's just like, it's so cool because you can see it. It's like, that's why, I talk about it all the time, how this area has like, for its population around here, we pump out a bunch of like unreal anglers that are well known in the industry. And I think that's a big part of it. Like, there's not many other places where bass fishing is glorified like that. So super cool to be a part of. Brian and I ended up third, which is actually what we got last year. You would think we just have like a safety area where we can go catch 18 pounds a day, but it doesn't work like that. We actually fished 70 miles in a different direction from where we fished last year. Didn't really have like a solid program. We just had a hodgepodge, had like 20 rods on the deck, caught shallow smallmouth, deep smallmouth, shallow largemouth, deep largemouth, like just a hodgepodge. But yeah, no, we had a good time as always. It's super cool that you can like go to so many areas of the lake and still have a chance to win. I mean, we didn't really have a realistic chance this year with the weights that the first place team brought in, but didn't lose by much last year. Go to a total different area, didn't lose by much. We've won it in a totally different region than where we fished the last 2 years. So it's just you can kind of pick your strength or pick whatever area is going off or whatever area is closest to where you have a place to stay and have a chance to win. There's very few fisheries where that exists. So super happy to have that and have a bunch of options so it doesn't, feel like stagnant year after year, practicing the same zone, fishing the same zones. But yeah, super cool. It was unreal this year. Oliver and Jason Gibbons won. They had two 20-pound bags of largemouth, which they're experts in the largemouth category, especially in high water. The last high water year was 2014. We won on largemouth, and they were a very close second on largemouth too. And then this year they just beat the hell out of everyone on largemouth for the first 2 days, and then pulled it like a magic rabbit 17 bag of smallmouth on the last day. They had one of the biggest bags of smallmouth of the day. So super impressive there. They won it 20 years ago or 21 years ago and have been like in the top 3 a few times since. They rarely missed the boat parade in the top 10. They were due for another one. Couldn't be happier for them. I actually asked Oliver, I texted him, I don't know, last week. I was like, hey, you want to be on the podcast? And he's just like, no, I got to work. I was like, okay, well, I mean, I didn't give you a day or time, so I'm going to take that as a pretty hard no. Ollie's the first guy to decline an invite. He's badass. So I'm sure they had a good time at the tent, and there are a lot of people happy to see them win. There's a lot of Gibbons that do very good in this tournament, and it's always a highlight running into them at the rules meeting and the weigh-ins and everything, and just like a good big fishing family from down in the Morrison area. So if you see Ollie and Jay, give them a pat on the back. So good job again, guys. I'm not going to be as happy for you if you win next year, but awesome to see. They had like a 6.5 pound largemouth too. They won the Frank McClymont Big Bass of the tournament. So it was, the river was closed this year for the tournament. Bill Gooden was staying at Brian's with a little crew, and he said it wouldn't really have mattered anyway. He's won out of the river. He's won the tournament, I think, 3 times. He's the hammer down there. He said because of the high water, probably wouldn't have played anyway, but it was nice not having like the super drama. Like, I'm not going to get way into it, but there were a couple teams last year that really pressed the limits of the volunteers and the committee, protesting really what were frivolous grievances that, really put a strain on the committee and, the volunteers, like people sacrificing their weekend just to give us this Bassmaster Classic style 3-day tournament. So, didn't see any of that this year, but what I did see was like pretty brutal, like same team, not going to out anyone, no names or anything, but like, I mean, these guys are kind of making a name for themselves. They were in the top 10. And a volunteer went up on the last day with like, they go around with ice because you put your fish on the trailer, put her on recirc. It's hot out. Like everyone wants the fish to be alive, you know, for obviously the benefit of the fishery and the benefit of the tournament. It doesn't look good if there's a bunch of dead fish. So anyway, like I hear that a kid go up with a bag of ice to this team. Hey, you need some ice for your fish? And the response was, no, we've killed them before and we'll kill them again. So, I mean, obviously we're not going to fix an attitude like that on a podcast, but I just, when I heard that, I just cringed. I didn't say anything. It was probably a little bit of it was a joke, but the reality was these guys have had a lot of dead fish penalties in their day, and just like pretty ignorant. I think we're moving in the wrong direction as far as fish care goes. It was kind of getting better and better and better. Like people started practicing catch and release. In the old Bassmaster days, they used to put 15 bass on a chain stringer. People started, practicing catch and release, and fish care got good, and they came up with products and better live wells. And now I'm kind of seeing fish care fade in the opposite direction, and I really hope, we can kind of pull together and have an impact on that. You see guys catch fish out in 30 feet of water, stuff them in a live well for a double fist picture. Like those look stupid anyway. Those aren't good pictures, unless you're winning a tournament with them. But you don't need to fill up your live well to get a double flex picture. Whatever, just a single and done. It's just unnecessary. I see lots of videos of like, yeah, boat flipping's cool. Like I do it constantly. But like you see people thinking they're Greg Hackney. These guys like, boat flip a 3-pound largemouth, let it smash off the console and just slackline it onto the ground. I mean, I don't want to sound like I'm chaining myself to a tree here and singing Save the Whales, but like take care of these things a little bit. Practice fish care. If you're boat flipping one, grab the line on the way down. I used to let them flop off the deck, and it was just because I didn't know. Gussie gave me hell one day. We were doing like a fishing with Gussie show, and I was flopping smallmouths onto the deck and just letting them boof, knocking all the slime coat off them, bouncing them around. So like you can boat flip a 5-pound largemouth and catch your line and not let this thing like go pounding into the ground. So I just kind of want to get that message across, So that's something I really like respect Major League Fishing for, is kind of pushing that, don't let them touch the carpet rule, or like I'm bad at releasing them, so I can't really talk there. I got to get better at that. But releasing them below the gunnel, like, with forward facing sonar and 450 boat high school tournaments and all this pressure, like, we've grown the sport and now it's our responsibility to take care of it. I don't want to sound like old Gandalf here preaching fish care, but like tighten her up. If you're killing fish, it happens sometimes, but if it's because of neglect, then you got to tighten your drag there, get some G juice, run some good live wells, learn how to fizz, all that good stuff. Anyway, we got to move on here. I'm going to get hung up on this. Oh, what's next here? Oh, Atikokan, another derby went down there. It's always the weekend after KBI. 110 teams, endless waiting list, giant smallmouth. It's almost impossible tournament to get into. They don't really let any new blood in and it's no fault of their own, just people want to fish it so much. There's 110 teams, and you have to sign up like the day after the tournament to retain your spot for the next year. And that might not be exact, but it's like within a couple days, and 109 teams re-upped for 2023. So they're going to let one team in, which is wild. There's not really any derbies that fill up that instant, maybe the bronze back, but yeah, it's on Marmion Lake, like floodwaters. I don't really know how it lays out. I've only been there a couple times, but the team of Danny Mikel, I don't know how to say these. I don't even know why I'm trying. Danny Mikel and Dylan Megan. I don't know how to say their names, but they had almost 44 pounds for 10 smallmouth, which is like Great Lake-esque. Pretty crazy on a lake up here to see an average like that. They won by 2.86, which is a big margin in a 2-day smallmouth tournament. So congratulations, guys. Buddy Brian Gus and Mike Lumen got second. They were solid. They had 41 pounds. I talked to Brian. He said the fishing was super grindy. I've been there when it's grindy with him once, and I've seen it. So, you know, it exists, but the bass are just so big that it can still be a grinder, and you can catch weights like that. Pretty awesome, 41 pounds. Congratulations, guys. Todd and Steve Brick got third. They had another 40 bag. They had over 24 pounds on the first day. Their local hammers are always up there. But yeah, 24 pounds for 5 smallmouth is mayhem in northwestern Ontario. Then, yeah, a couple other local hammers. Cody and Jared Wood had their 40 bag, and Mike Baduke and Water had 40 bag as well. So a bunch of catching going on. The top 10 just flopped so hard. Like a couple in the top 10, you know, retained their positions up there, but like you can tell it was a grind because some teams dropped like 10 to 14 pounds below what they had on the first day. So that just kind of shows you how much of a grind it is there. But there are a bunch of 6.5 pounders, and you know, I know it can be bananas there. I've been there in the fall where we've had 23 pounds and got like in third place in a little fall tournament. So obviously it was a little bit tougher this year. Still mega weights and still full again for next year. And that's another, like I talk about the KBI crowd. That one in Atikokan is probably just as wild. It's like I saw videos of it. I've seen it in person. It's packed. It's a major party after. Actually, I don't know when this rule came in, but the party's so wild after that they won't serve hard liquor. I don't know what happened to put this rule in place, but to have to put a governor on the type of liquor you're consuming is it's nothing I've ever seen before. So I'm sure the party's nuts there. When I fished it, I had to leave, so I didn't get to experience it. But I guess twisted teas are the drink of choice for all the non-beer drinkers that are in the Derby. And yeah, we're gonna have to get Cody Wood on. He's gonna have some good stories about that. He's kind of one of the local hammers there, and yeah, I'm sure he's got the backstory on why it's twisted teas and bush lattes only at the finals. So yeah, good job to everyone at Atikokan. Seems like a real fun derby. I would probably try to weasel on the waiting list if it wasn't, you know, such a busy summer already, but yeah, it's pretty cool that it's still going strong. So okay, what else we got? Also, this is new. I got the call last week that I got into the third stop of the Bassmaster Southern Open on Lake Hartwell at the end of September, beginning of October. So gearing up for another Bassmaster Open. It's just one of those things. I can't qualify for the Elite Series. I can't qualify for the Classic just because I missed that first tournament. You know, I'm really just going for kind of the experience. You know, I don't know what direction life's going to take me, if I'll ever be able to pony up for one again. So I'm kind of just, opportunity came along, throw my money in the hat, and we'll truck her back down south. Lake Hartwell is where the Bassmaster Classic was this year. There's a lot of history on that lake. Not much of it in the fall. It's mostly like spring stuff that the other tournament trails have gone there. Looks like it's loaded with spotted bass and a bunch of them. It sounds like it's going to be like a deep water, you know, brush pile kind of deal. Who knows? Like, you know, it's a pretty big fault of most fishermen to have preconceived notions, but I've caught a couple spotted bass kind of in passing here and there. I've never targeted them. So pretty much going down there to go fish for a fish that I've never caught. But, you know, it looks like it's relatable, or at least some things will transfer over. So really looking forward to that one. You know, hopefully if it goes well, I can kind of procure a little bit more help to wheel into some more next year. It's just one of those things where I may as well take a swing at it. I am going to miss a tournament around here that weekend, but I mean, that's pretty minor. I say it's pretty minor, but it's always like the Frank McClimb one. It's the last tournament of the year. I love fishing it. So it's gonna suck missing that one. But if you do want information on that Frank McClimb tournament, though, ask Rick at Lake of the Woods Sports, and look him up on Facebook because that's a good derby too. But anyway, really looking forward to that one. It's like a 26-hour drive from here. Probably going to bring a co-pilot on this one. That last one I did was just stupid. Drove pretty much through the night. Got there and just started fishing. Like, it would just be so much easier if I could hand off the wheel and have someone drive and, just have someone to share the kind of experience with going down there. And I think there's co-angler spots, so probably try to wrangle up a buddy for that. It's going to be long, hard days, but should be good. That's a freaking long way away, 26 hours. Looking forward to that, and I'll at least be warmed up, on the bass fishing front by then. The last one I went, I just kind of went right from the ice shack to the deck of the boat, so it was a little rodeo-esque on the trolling motor, but anyway, enough jibber jabber, and we're gonna text my guest here. What's happening, Tom?
You can get it? Wow. It's
you
always
found some headphones.
Yeah, you saw that? I had to steal them from my wife.
Yeah, I think you're the only guy I've talked to in the last 10 years that didn't have a set of headphones.
You think over COVID, since I'm still working remote almost like 3 days a week, we would have them, but I don't. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, bud. Crystal clear. Crystal clear. Okay. How's it going?
Good.
Yeah?
Let me just try and get this enlarged so then I only have you. And if my dog starts barking, it's because my kid just came in the door.
Yeah. Hey, no problem. No problem. We've interviewed guys in garages before with like grinding going on in the background. So a dog is minor.
Yeah. I warned them all that I was doing this. So
is this your first podcast?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we've done over the years like radio shows and stuff and little snippets, done seminars, but yeah.
Did you ever do like real fishing radio with Bob Azumi and Gord Pizer?
No, not that. Yeah, I love Bob. He's but he's always been had competitive sponsors, so we never really got invited. No, he's a good guy. I feel old. Yeah. I know all those guys, like, you grew up, like I kind of grew up watching them, but more or less I've been in the industry with Bob for like eons, and to watch him retire and stuff is crazy.
Yeah. I've been like, when I was a kid, I used to watch him on TV like instead of cartoons, and it was I mean he was a legend in my eyes.
Oh yeah, absolutely is. He still is. He's what put a lot of basically the bass fishing. He put it on the map, I think, in Canada.
Yeah.
Shimano had a big part in doing that because they kind of owned the sportsman shows. They really promoted it, had the gear for it before any other company looked at that kind of stuff. And yeah. I mean, Saturday mornings was the 2 or 3 Canadian shows that they'd have on.
Yeah.
And then Sundays was watching the National Network, and that was like Bassmaster, Hank Parker, Bill Dance, that kind of stuff.
Oh,
that might be before your time. I think that might be way before your time.
Sundays were always like, Saturdays would be good. It'd be like the Real Fishing Show with Bob, Fishing Canada, maybe like, yeah. And then Sundays would be like fly fishing, and I'd just be like, I'm not watching this. But that's I always think of Bob and Gord's Real Fishing Radio anytime someone says fishing radio. So I figured I'd ask that, but we're not here to talk about Bob and Gord. We're here to talk about you. So I didn't properly introduce you.
Okay.
And I really haven't formally met you, so kind of going to be a learning thing for me too. But so you're the director of advertising and creative, and the product and market specialist is what your email footer says at Rapala Canada.
I don't know what it means. To be honest,
Bunch of jobs. That's a bunch of jobs in one line.
Yeah, we're a small, we're a great big multinational company, but in Canada we have a nice sized warehouse and a small crew that works on the marketing side. But we cover so many jobs, from product development to marketing, advertising. We make our own catalogs and just the gamut. And of course, it's grown in the years that I've been with, I'll call it Normark, because that's sort of our company name, but everybody knows it as Rapala. But the group of brands is 12, 13 core brands that everybody knows. But globally, we have business in the carp business. We have just tons of stuff out there, and so it's a really cool family of brands to be involved with.
Yeah, and it seems to be like really the only brand that their umbrella covers like every species. So like like Strike King's a big brand, and they have a million different avenues, but that's kind of just focused on bass fishing. Pure fishing covers like a lot of like bass and walleye stuff too. But Rapala, like it's big in the Xander community. It's big in the carp community. Like the blanket is just it's just so much more worldwide. So you probably get a lot of opportunity to learn about a bunch of different species and people that chase them. Yeah,
absolutely. And that's one of the coolest commercials we ever made was I think it was Larry Dahlberg did it actually, and when we used to sponsor him. It was he had this show called Hunt for Big Fish or something. But he went around to every trip he did, every part of the world. He'd get the person to say the word Rapala, because everybody knew it didn't matter what kind of minnow bait you held up, that was a Rapala, right? And and then he had at the end of it like just this montage of people saying the word Rapala.
Oh yeah, I remember it well.
You remember it well, and it's true. And there was even one of the Canadian guides on there. His name's Gil McKean. He's out west, and he actually said it right, but. Canadians refer to it as the most common question when you go to a trade show is it called Rapala or Rapala? Which is it? It's like this argument between two buddies. It's like walleye and pickerel. It's just one of those Canadiana things you got to figure out. So the guys got to ask about it. But
it's Finnish, right? Like that's how to say it right, is Rapala.
Well, I can't even say it right. They roll the R. But it definitely is a global brand, and over the last few years, it's grown across with brands. We do rods and reels, rod and reel brands. Over in Europe, they do the Kuma stuff. We do 13 Fishing. So it's growing. Suffolk's line, when you're a braid company or a monofilament company, that gets you in there. And then VMC, of course, is basically the largest treble hook manufacturer in the world. They supply hooks to just about every lure company there is as buys VMC hooks. So it's big, and it's cool. It's cool. They got this history, but yet a lot of new stuff happening here.
Yeah.
Anyways,
I mean,
I don't
go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I don't know what you want to talk about, this kind of stuff, industry stuff, or just fishing.
We're just gonna roll, bud. It's not
because I can get boring pretty fast.
No. This is the second time you've mentioned it where you're worried about not being entertaining or boring, but it's not a concern. I've texted with you enough and talked to you enough where I know that's not gonna be an issue. So if we deep dive into something, we'll dive in. But
cool.
I mean, you're like, the reason I texted you, I mean, to come on is that we haven't had a good industry person yet. We've had, tournament anglers, guides. Oh, Brian was on last. He's, heavy into the industry, but we were kind of talking to him more as a tournament angler. Mm-hmm. So you've been around the block with, with Normark. You seem to know like a lot of ins and outs of the industry, and you seem to be pretty well versed on the fishing front. And that's kind of why I wanted to talk to you the most, because you're obviously passionate about it. You know what's going on, like on the tournament trails and everything like that. So it's cool to see someone this entrenched in the industry that's like that into fishing. So we'll just kind of roll with it. It's like,
okay.
What do you do now? I read out your title. I know you do a lot of things, but like, what's your main focus?
We have a new president in Canada, and he's Cyril Matthew. He came from he's originally from the VMC factory guy. So he's been working in hooks business. And when he came over to North America, he was working out of the Minneapolis office with the guys at Rapala USA, and basically spearheaded the growth of what VMC is in North America now. And it's, one of these leading brands in the bass market now. And pretty much anything you see has some part of it with Cyril's name on it. And then he had an opportunity as our hierarchy kind of changed, and our former president moved into charge of global PD. Cyril jumped into Canada to take the helm, and he knows that, again, I told you it's a small business, so we all have a hand in PD, and so he knows my background. I've been with the company almost 25 years now.
Yeah.
So he just saw that I thought I had more strengths, and I had a lot of, basically almost 25 years of marketing and advertising, creative kind of background with the company, plus the PD stuff. So then I just moved in as a market. He calls me a market expert because, I've seen just about every change that's happened in the last 25 years. Brands come and go, the innovations. I know a lot about suppliers, what it takes to make a good rod or reel or whatever. And then from that, it's the expert part is knowing what we need in Canada. Because like you mentioned Strike King, having somebody with a foot in Canada to have the pulse of what's happening here, so that we can bring in the right products and put it in front of Canadian anglers that are going to give them success. He just thought it'd be, it's a good move for us to have feet on the ground here, and talking to guys like yourself. Actually, you're kind of new to our team with Rapala, and we rely on you guys because, believe it or not, you get into the industry to do you think you're going to fish?
Yeah.
Because that's where all of our passions are. But the reality of it is, I end up sending the majority of our stuff for, to get feedback from guys like yourself, because you have time on the water, and it's a luxury that we don't have, and we become experts at gathering information, filtering out the good and then bringing it all into a product launch. And so that's my kind of deal. I don't know if I answered your question about what I do, but literally we one day, today, for instance, I was getting samples out to our reps, on the new 13 rods and reels, and I was doing a little bit of product testing on some other stuff to get ready for 2024, actually. Stuff that you haven't seen or our guys won't see, but it'll be ready to be tested. And when we spend sometimes 2-3 years testing products before we get them to market, and getting them cleaned up, getting them to be priced properly. Everything's so important to be a success these days. It's not just having a great product. Yeah, you have to have everything aligned in it, and that comes down to even the marketing side of it. Guys like yourself feeding you the new product, so that you're out there and using the product and getting to know it, so that you can talk about it with some kind of knowledge and adds credibility to your brands, really.
Yeah, and I mean, you've kind of you have big shoes to fill in the Rapala lineup. Like the bar is so high, and I'm not going to turn this into a half an hour Rapala commercial, but there isn't like in the actual Rapala proper brand, there isn't a bad lure. Like there isn't a filler lure. There isn't one that's just showed up for a year and gone away. Like you can tell those steps have been taken. You know, everything's just like everything catches fish and has a good finish and is quality. And there's a lot of brands that'll put out like a bait for a year, promote it hard. People buy it and then it just ends up in the yard sale bin or whatever. And you really don't see that much with Rapala. So, and that's
definitely time in the water. I mean, we everybody, the lure designers, even the marketing people, we're all fishermen. We all love the sport, and our favorite species is the one we're fishing for that day, and we all quickly try to become experts, even if it's something we're relatively new at. It's digging in and going, we got to know the nuances of this technique or of this species and this type of water, because Canada is really like no other country when it comes to species. And when you go coast to coast, I mean, you can get smallmouth bass on the East Coast, you can get smallmouth bass on the West Coast, but there's different fisheries. We got the excuse me, bottom fish out west. You got to know about tuna on the East Coast and stripers, and then you go north and you got to know about pike and walleye and just better. And then every technique, whether it's down rigging to top water, it's cool. And for a person like myself, I'm definitely a tackle junkie. Like a hoarder.
Yeah,
I'm a hoarder. Like I'm sitting in my living room here because this is where we've been working. During COVID, I definitely don't have a man cave, but I usually embarrass my wife when she has people over here because there's usually about 50 rods and tackle everywhere in her living room. So it's
all like prototypes and new stuff.
Absolutely anything. If somebody triggers something in my mind, I have to go dig it out of my basement and tinker with it. I'm sitting here. Okay, so I didn't know what you wanted to talk about, and so I started digging around my basement. I go like, I'm such a tackle junkie. I never get rid of anything, and I'm going to show you.
Yeah,
this is and my I love every fish and whatever. Honestly, I get addicted to whether it's steelheading. I've done so much of that. I don't have feeling in my fingers anymore in cold weather because I've frozen myself so many times. But bass fishing is where I sort of cut my teeth and my whole life changed. And I'm going to show you this thing, and I still have it. It's embarrassing, but this is a Roland Martin big bass spinnerbait. It's a blue fox thing. It's ancient, and it literally came from my cousin. Actually, was down at Lake Okeechobee, and I think he might have even gone into Roland Martin's marina or something and picked this thing up, and it just everything started from there. I mean, prior to that, I learned how to fish top water with my grandpa because he had a crazy crawler or a hula popper.
Yeah.
But when I started getting serious about it was when I got that spinnerbait and
that was what leveled you up.
Oh yeah, it was just I was going to be in the Bassmaster Classic. and it's cool seeing kids now like they're so pumped up and that addicted to it. But
I was never really that cool when you were a kid. Like I don't remember bass fishing being cool.
No.
But it is now a little bit.
Yeah, I mean definitely down in the States they got college bass now. I mean those kids are amazing and they know just about everything. YouTube and everything. YouTube has definitely done it. We were talking earlier about Bob Azumi shows and whatever. Like we had to glean off of, every pike show he did and how he caught it, and we'd all run out to the store and grab
Yeah, his word was gold.
Huh? Oh, absolutely. I honestly have my desk sitting here. So then after I grabbed that blue fox one, I go, okay, I'm gonna really tell you. I got this box, this like user box that if I ever decided to do tournaments ever again in my life, right, I would have this magic box of stuff I know that works. So like I got my pint of pig.
Oh yeah, little jig and pig.
And honestly, I'm not lying. That thing is like 25 years old.
Yeah.
And they're still alive. I would fish them.
Yeah, maybe they're coming back.
The pint of pig, and then there's the next old one, hand-tied living rubber, the old school rubber jigs.
What else you got in there?
What else I got? Man.
In your dream tournament box.
Well, that wasn't dream one, but I'll tell you what, there's some lures and stuff that just sort of changed the industry. As you went along, and so I was grabbing stuff. I'm like, what kind of got into past jigs or Texas ring worms or anything like that. But that right there, I don't know. Pull back.
Is that a sluggo?
Yeah, they got the sluggo. That's like probably from the year that they came out. There was another one. I think it was Culprit did one almost the same type of deal. And you know what? The action, everything about it was sort of the prelude to Senkos. And now, like Senkos are, it doesn't matter across Canada. Every brand out there has a version of a Senko, and they just work. Like some lures they just work. We had some in Trigger X. They were killer. And my kids don't go fishing without me without, a pink Senko or Trigger X flutter worm rigged up. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Then you see see trends too, like how trends have come and gone, like lures that fell out of popularity all of a sudden are coming back. You see like what was a crazy crawler, with the arms and stuff, and all these Japanese brands have these, whopper ploppers and some weird, winged duck creature or whatever.
The old top waters are the craziest thing.
Yeah, I have a box here with torpedoes. Yeah, like little tiny torpedoes and chug bugs, stuff like that have been just mainstays, and they've been selling. We just keep selling them, but they just plain work. So.
Yeah, it's cool how many things there are now. Like back in the day, it was just, you watch an old Bassmaster tournament. Like there was one in Sierras on Lake of the Woods in the 70s, and every single person and every single boat just threw a spinnerbait. That was just your lure.
Yeah, and it's changed. So in that magic box that I'd go tournament fishing, I always had an original floater and that thing. Even today, is still one of the best jerk baits, let alone top water. It's so subtle, and it doesn't matter where you go, north, south, east, west, you can catch bass on them. You can catch, of course, I should talk about other species, but I got off on bass. But then I can remember doing, and I used to fish tournaments. It's like kind of something I wasn't good at it. I saw something the other day. It was like one of those, there's a blog on, I think it's the Lindners do it, and it's Brent McComas. He talked about how good he was in practice.
He wins practice.
Yeah, that's me. That's me. But I know what to do, but just it never worked for me. And but you learn so much doing tournaments, about pressured fish and patterning fish and that kind of thing. So. That's cool. Actually, I'm just gonna talk randomly. But I know you always talk about. So I watched your Seth Fighter interview there, and I was going, "There's no way I'm gonna keep up with these guys. These guys, this is like being on the Joe Rogan show, but for fishing." Because of the people you have, man. I told my wife that this guy, I'm doing this interview tonight. It's like Joe Rogan of fishing.
That's a stretch. I'm pretty sure Joe Rogan doesn't have OSB sheets behind him in the corner of his garage.
Hey, you got more trophies than him, though.
Probably not. He's probably just doesn't big dog it and put them on display for everyone to see.
But I was listening to that interview you did with them, and anyways, and you're talking about the Johnson brothers, and I don't know them. I know that like they live not even 35 minutes north of me here in Peterborough. In fact, I lived in Peterborough through high school and stuff. But I'm thinking how old I am, and I used to fish tournaments against their dad. And way back when I was sort of representing as I was doing tournaments and stuff, selling a bait brand called Gillraker, and we used to pour get them to pour some custom stuff for Lynn Johnson. And I'm going to show you. See, I got my little. I got that little that.
Is that an old like flat top hand pour?
Yeah, it was a Zeta bait. I forget what they call it now. Anyway, so I got this this box of like stuff, just old school, whatever. Down here, the thing used to be like Dunkin' milfoil. That's basically what guys do. Yeah. So, yeah.
That's actually what Coop Gallant called it. That. I remember talking to Brian. He fished with Coop down in Florida, and he was like, he was looking for worms or something. Brian's like, okay, I got some worms, and Coop was flipping them like just whatever, like ribbon tails or whatever. And Brian's like, what are you doing? He's like, you never dunked a worm before? Like I've never heard of dunking a worm. Obviously, that's where it came from. Then
really
fear zone.
No, before punching and stuff, it was just like. Yeah, worming.
Dunking a worm.
6-inch culprit grape.
Like on a big weight though? Like I've seen it on
bullet weight
and stuff lots and
bullet weight and stuff. Yeah, around here that works. And then and guys were good at it. Guys like I can throw names out there. I'd be name dropping. But like,
do it.
That Big Jim McLaughlin and the Hector Peach back in the day. This guy was like.
That's a badass name. I've never heard of him, but I'm going to look him up now.
Hector, Hector unfortunately had an action left him like paralyzed, but he was one of the best dunkers in Canada, man. Like he just, everybody would come in, you go to a tournament and it'd be a ridiculous day. Everybody'd come in with a 14-pound limit and he'd have like 21 pounds.
Yeah.
Just shake your head.
Crazy. You don't really see that anymore, hey? Like the mega blowouts.
Yeah, it's pretty hard.
Like even the Johnsons only win by a little bit and don't win them all. It's like
I don't know what's changed.
Tighter.
It's definitely electronics have played a huge part on the lakes down here. Guys disseminating weed beds. Finding different pieces of structure, that kind of thing. GPS is
that's the ultimate equalizer, I think.
Yeah, back in the day, like when I would go fishing with my buddies that weren't fishermen, and they'd be running like a 12-foot, 14-foot aluminum, and they just had oars and a cement block basically, and you'd have to drift a little bit and throw the block out so you can fish into the set of lily pads. Yeah. You'd be sitting there going, guy, what would change your world? Getting an electric trolling motor. And so people started changing that, that when they found out the difference that made in your mobility and being able to stay on a spot or get into shallow water, it changed fishing. But what it's escalated to now with like spot lock and all this, like, it's just mind-blowing, actually. Watching these tournaments now, because I try to watch as many as I can to learn, because I glean off these guys. These guys teach you stuff every day. But but it's actually the guys in Northern Ontario, like guys like, well, you had Alex. I know you did an interview with Alex Kessler.
Mm-hmm.
Guys like
He's the man.
that have been electronics gurus, and for walleye and for walleye mostly, it's these guys that have been multi-species anglers, and then they carried it over like flashers to the ice fishing, and then that just opened everybody's eyes to active target fishing. Whether it's your moping, do nothing kind of fishing, right? But it really, a lot of that stuff came from the north, and it started with ice fishing, and then little techniques like, you see, Alex is great friends with, maybe I'm speaking out of terms, but and he's too proud, that guy, to take credit for a lot of things. But I know how much he taught the guys at Lindner, like the Lindners and in-fishermen and stuff.
Yeah.
And so many of the techniques that spawned what we're seeing today through in-fishermen and later through the Lindner shows and stuff were Alex figuring it out, figuring out how to do so. And guys like Alex. I shouldn't just say Alex. But,
yeah. I mean, there's a
that guy's,
of them, but it's not a big circle like of those old school flasher, like being able to triangulate with no GPS. Like the skills they have are amazing. If a lightning storm came through and took out everyone's electronics one weekend, they would just dominate because they can look and they're just good at triangulating. I kind of came in to the tournament scene when GPS was like just getting started, so I never had to navigate. I never had to be good at navigating, and I just get embarrassed when I hop in with some of these guys and their ability to just their awareness of where they are. Like that's just a skill that's gone.
Yeah, and you kind of need it too. I mean, if you didn't have navionics, let's say, I'm just gonna drop. You know what? Why don't we just drop as many name brands as we can? We'll just bump, like something you can tag.
Yeah,
it would be the worst interview ever. But
it's not going to be Navionics because they have the worst maps on Earth around here.
Okay.
It's just like it may as well be nothing.
But you have that. But then all of a sudden you have the oh shoot, it's the lake mapping where you can create your own maps basically of lakes that you don't have mapping. And stuff like that. It's just like, because I fish some really small lakes that will never have navionics. I'll call it navionics. Won't have any kind of mapping.
Mm-hmm. But the lakes don't stand a chance now. Like before, they'd be like, "Oh yeah, just idle past the cedar tree, and you'll see the mouth of the creek, and then line it up." And my mind would I would just quit. I'd go golfing if I had to do that now.
It's crazy. And then of course what you're seeing with the Garmin units, another name drop. Just keep tagging this one. It'll be the worst interview ever, but but it'll have the most views. That's always the way, right?
Yeah. We need something like nuts, like a crazy thumbnail, like I can't believe he said this or something like that. Right. That's how you get like the Guggen-esque views.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can't keep up with it. My budget won't keep up with it. I got 2 kids in university, so I can't keep up with the electronics. I said to my wife though, I could go put a couple of units on my boat, but it'd be more than my boat.
Yeah. You'd be like the high school kid with like a 1980 Tempest and a big kicker stereo in it.
Yeah,
that's what some of these boats look like. You see John boats with $5,000 graphs and a $4,000 troller, but
it's one of our other pro staff, Jeff Chisholm. He's again one of these phenomenal anglers, young guy, and he's just so passionate about the sport. And there's probably not a species he doesn't know how to catch.
Mm-hmm.
But he has so many units now on his boat, it's ridiculous, and he constantly is talking to me about I did this today with that unit, and I saw it the one day when we were out on Quinny this year. We were shooting a product video for VMC, and we fished some open water trolling for walleye, but then we went into some weed beds, and he was pitching to fish that he could see swimming through the milfoil like 30 feet in front of him. And it was like thick, almost like matted kind of stuff. And he just like, like being able to actually see, and the species, you can just tell by their silhouette. It's insane. And then I don't know, did you watch that St. Lawrence tournament?
Yeah. Just like, buried in your graph. I talked to Gussie when the scope first hit the scene hard, and none of the Humminbird guys had it. They were on like, I think it was Champlain it was St. Clair. It was St. Clair. And it was like, they were just throwing their hands in the air like they were toast. They just couldn't compete at all. Yeah. Like Corey would come through and just scope them like right under their boats, just stroke them.
Yeah. So Jeff tells me about, like rock piles and stuff, and you can see the direction that the smallmouth are swimming to or from. And then of course, Humminbird just brought out that new, I can't even afford the batteries to run those things.
I don't think that thing's, I get the idea. I saw it. So there's a 360 on one side, a target lock on the other, a Mega Live, the Mega Live's on the target lock. But there's two big arms coming off this already heavy trolling motor, and I'm like, where does this end?
Yeah.
I try to get away with to be a minimalist on that front, but it's getting out of control. But it's fish can adapt though. I was down at Sturgeon Bay this spring, and those fish know. It's a 5-pound smallmouth in 4 feet of water. It should be automatic. They should stick out like a sore thumb, and you'll just barely see their dorsal fin cruising along the bottom. And I've seen them out on mud flats be able to belly to the bottom, can't mark a fish, and drop the camera down, drag the marker around, and you can see them.
Yeah.
So they can adapt, and it's encouraging to see that the fish aren't going to get totally stepped on though.
It's a good another lesson right there, right? Because I fish with some really, really. One benefit of my job is I get to fish with basically the best fishermen in Canada. Yeah. And I have fished honestly with some of the best multi-species, but also bass anglers. I got a good friend, Derek Strube. And we fished way too many hours in a boat together with where you just spend the entire day scanning the basin of the thing. Of a lake, Lake Ontario. We spent Lake Simcoe, giant lake. We spent the entire day scanning the basin of Lake Simcoe, looking for, hidden gems, whatever it was.
Yeah. I think he said once that he never runs the same route anywhere. He always takes a different direction on the off chance that he runs over like a hard bottom spot or a little clump of weeds or something.
Yeah. And down here, you learn really quickly that's just the key. It's just like finding one little, whether it's a 1 foot drop off or a transition from, a type of bottom to another. And I've learned so much from these guys. And but interesting, like a lot of times, and Derek, I shouldn't generalize. But in general, if he doesn't see fish off his graph or whatever, we won't stop and fish necessarily.
Yeah.
And then he and another great angler, Mike DeForge, who I fished with, is kind of the opposite. If it's good enough looking, the drop off or whatever it is that makes him look, he fishes it.
Yeah.
On the chance.
I like that. I'm more along that style. Because I've just seen them have the ability to hide so much now that, it's kind of, you just have to feel her out. And that's kind of the old, Alex Kessler and Ted Stooner mentality. If it looks good, just see if something emerges from it. So,
yeah, they're fast. First of all, fish are faster than we give them credit for. I watched bass scream, 20 feet, no problem, to smoke something. That you're burning a spinnerbait and they come from a mile away, right? So they have that ability, and you might not even pick them up depending on the depth of the water. But definitely, yeah, you got to fish it. And although, that I think it was the last, I don't know all the names, all these things, but Major League Fishing, it was, they were on Cayuga. And that lake, it gets big largemouth and stuff, but these guys were like 5-pounder, 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 and they're picking them out. That's incredible, like to be able to do that. Like on that many consecutive days of fishing, to boat 100 pounds worth of bass, it's wild.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm getting off.
Yeah, I watched a little bit of that. I haven't been watching it. I kind of I gave it a chance when it came out. I'm kind of just like watching Bassmaster, to be honest. But I watched it because I saw how good they're catching them, and it was pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
You're learning lots of stuff, because what they're doing though is showing you sort of the direction that what you'll see in the industry for the next bit, whether it's because of forward-facing sonar, guys are going to have lures that show up on their graph better. Know that they can trigger bass with a certain style of lures, and you're seeing it with Jacob Wheeler, one of our pros. Fishing what we don't really consider. Most anglers in Canada don't consider throwing a deep diving crankbait, and he is. I mean, this is northern Canada, basically northern Canada. Cayuga is not that far south of us down here.
Yeah.
And it's basically the same kind of water. It's all Finger Lakes. It's like Champlain or any of those. And he showed that, 4 days of fishing, he didn't put down a DT 14 or 16.
Yeah. I watched that green thing go to work.
Yeah, it's true. So but then you got to pick up those cues. So then I'm talking to Jeff Chisholm, another one of our pros, and he's going out to do a show for Fish TV on Lake Simcoe. And what is he throwing out there? DT 16 and DT 10 and stuff, and starts getting small, these giant smallmouth bass on Lake Simcoe on them, and showing that crankbaits definitely work here. It's an underutilized lure. For Canada.
Probably the most underutilized lure. I try so much to make it happen around here, and I just can't.
Really?
Yeah, just not like, it's shallow. Yeah, you can go catch a bunch of fish, but the deep ones are just not. They're just not into it. We've tried to force it lots, like go out with only a crankbait, like especially after Fighter one on St. Clair. It was like, okay, there's something to this.
Yeah,
and I remember being out, like we were throwing these like DT 16s and whatever else, and just catching walleye after walleye. You could throw like a moping bait over top of them, and they'd shoot up. And it's just a different breed. But I'm sure there's an application. But you guys have like a pretty unreal pro staff down there too. I was going to comment on, because like there's an archetype in who they have. In the US, and it's like, Swindle, Palaniuk, Wheeler, Downey, Fighter, Iconelli, like the one thing they have in common is they're all straight shooters. Like if something sucks, they're going to tell you it sucks. If something needs improving, they're going to show. So that's got to be a reason for kind of the dominance.
Yeah. Because of the internet, though, you have to be that much more on point when you bring out a product. Like you have to know and justify it. And unfortunately, it gets to that point, and I hate calling ourselves a big company, but we're not able to jump on so many trends. Let's say first of all, we'd like to be sort of a leader, but it's a lot harder for us to jump on these trendy kind of products. As good as they are, we would love to be in every avenue. The reality of it is you have to bring out winners. You have to have stuff that's going to have legs to it.
Yeah.
And not just be a 1 or 2 year hit wonder kind of thing. And so it doesn't always benefit us to just jump on somebody else's idea. Chatterbait, another one. It's a very first of all, there's patents on stuff, so we respect people. They come up with good concepts, they own it, and that's just me speaking. I really feel that when I working for Rapala, one thing I always treat it like way I would run my own business. in every dealing that I deal with. It's that way. You treat it like you own it, and you treat people with respect, and same thing with working with other people in the industry. We have lots of ties to, the other brands, and it's a small enough industry. You don't tick off people.
Yeah.
And you find it in the tournament world too, right? You find out quickly the guy's not the sponsor. Or
Right.
whatever.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I like that because like I'm kind of having my first, year on kind of the tackle industry side with BT, and every year there's a rip off, like a direct rip off of the Smeltinator jig. Like it's automatic. That's Brian had that thing welded up way back in the day, and now we see it, and it's like, okay, you kind of, I mean, I get it. Like everyone's gonna have a Senko, everyone's gonna have this, everyone's gonna have that, but there's a little bit of a little bit of fire in the furnace when you see it. So
it's like every time you see an ad that somebody says it's as good as balsa.
No. Yeah. No, I get it. And
we take pretty good pride in that kind of thing, as we do in developing, plastic baits. I think about it's like, I've seen so many lures come and go. Like I used to fish that floater 11 where you would fish a jerk bait. And then I think it was Gord Pizer and Doug Stange. You used to weight some Husky 13s, to get them to suspend.
Mm-hmm.
And
like with the storm strips.
Yeah, and storm strips and stuff, right? And now that just when suspending baits came in, that was like the whole industry almost changed when suspending baits came out, because the way you fish, how early in the season you can fish, with a jerk bait like that, like Husky jerk. It's still and that's another one of my. It's in my hero box. Right?
Yeah,
they just know.
Me too. We used to call it Old Trusty, the HJ10 and whatever silver. It just looked like silver and black. Old Trusty.
Yeah. I honestly, and then later on, it was, I hate to say it's like I think it was almost 2000, the year 2000. We brought out the X-Rap 2000, 2002, and then that thing was like.
Bananas.
Okay, yeah. I mean, besides, one thing about jerk baits is it's good money for us because every pike in the world likes those things.
Yeah.
Husky jerks, X-Wraps, they're just,
especially like the little number 8 X-Wraps. Those are just like a snack. Like your line may as well not even be there. It's gone.
I can remember Alex Kessler putting in his orders and stuff, and like, can you rush up 12? Silver Husky jerks, because I'll go through every one of them.
That would last like a weekend. I remember the first the hard bait sponsor I had. It was maybe 8 or 10 years ago, and my order was like, I got a call from the sales manager asking if I was like reselling them because I ordered so many because the pike are so rampant. He was from South Carolina. We're like. Yeah, you might get snagged on a tree and lose one a year, but just had no idea, that you could legit go through 30 or 40 jerk baits in a year.
I mean, good, like I said, good business for us, but it's, those kind of technologies really have changed a lot of things. And then, I follow your stuff and, the BTS stuff or whatever, and that Smeltinator, I know Gussie has been sort of doing that do nothing technique for forever. And I thought, old Bob Azumi episode, I can remember him fishing with Roland Martin on a lake down here at Cerrito Lake, super clear. The fish are pretty deep.
Yeah.
And he's funny. He just sort of laid his rod on the edge of the deck, and he had a smoke grub. Just a 2-inch smoke grub, and he just sit it there and go, watch, Bob, look, it's the do nothing technique, watch. And it was just like one after another, these ridiculous smallmouth bass, and but it's the same technique, almost. we just don't have a lot of our lakes don't have the same kind of, whether it's smelt or whitefish or
totally different
ciscoes
forage, more bottom based.
Yeah, but it's kind of cool, and yeah.
So I mean, we've kind of talked about how lures have changed and everything, but what I want to pick your brain about is like on the industry, like media front, because you've gone from, we talked about radio earlier, radio, TV, like outdoor writing, those were kind of the staples back in the day, to now like heavy like influence on social media and like other avenues. So how has that changed your job?
It's changed our whole marketing plan. We've been a long time sponsor of television shows.
Mm-hmm.
Every magazine in Canada we used to advertise in, and they all have their place. But people are hungry for information.
Yep.
Like they just, and I'm the same way. Whether it's I gotta fix the leaky pipe in my roof or whatever.
You're going to the YouTube.
Yeah, like it is changed, and the ability of people to comment,
Right.
and review and all that kind of stuff on products.
Yeah.
Has definitely changed the way you have to market a product, launch a product. Like it literally has to be, top notch. It's changed, and so many people can all of a sudden be called experts.
Yeah, like especially in like the YouTube world, and I know that's a big conversation.
Yeah.
Have you ever had to like vet through like someone's, say someone has 500,000 followers and you're looking at them? Do you ever like have to look at them and try to verify if you're actually getting quality information or if it's just someone doing goofy stuff?
It's still a small enough industry that we know enough people and go, Jamie, who is this guy or whatever?
Right.
What's the deal? Why are people watching it? And it's, I don't know if it's our society or whatever. Like it was hard for me to, and I loved listening to your thing the other day with Seth. But it's hard to sit. We're not programmed anymore to sit for an hour and a half,
No, that's why people like podcasts, because they can just put them on when you're working.
Yeah, I'm surprised. And that seems to be where a lot of people are doing it. They just put it on because it's something of interest. They can learn stuff. It's interesting. And hey, listen, it honestly is better than sitting in front of the television these days. At least you're getting something, that hopefully, like even in our conversation, I've tried not to be commercial. I didn't even wear a Rapala shirt.
No, I don't have any. Do you guys have one for me?
Yeah.
So,
but okay. So we're getting back to I personally, I treat things as if would I watch that? Am I going to gain good information from it?
Mm-hmm.
I really like the way Aaron Weeb had been doing his show.
Yeah.
When he started doing it, I mean, it's off the wall and stuff, and you got to take it. You got to take characters, but people like it, and he's genuine. Like there was some pretty genuine moments that always happen with that, and people want to see that. They don't want to see this canned, polished. The guy took you to the spot and you dropped your jig over and you had a fish fry.
Yeah.
If I'm going to spend my time these days, which I have very little of, I want to learn something or be really, or the new thing is, lifestyle. It's like this genuine, drop another name. Love the Meat Eater show. Like I just
Yeah. You and like 5 million other people. That one, and it's for a good reason too.
Hey, I learned how to cook, but you know what? It's a philosophy that we can be proud that we're hunters and fishermen. Really? Like, there's nothing I would rather do. In fact, I told you, man, I get so addicted to this stuff. Like I came home from work tonight and I started tinkering with some more gear, like just had a new idea, like how to just
Do you ever
do
wake up and
something.
write something down?
Yeah, I hate not having a lure that we don't sell.
Right.
Right. So I just, write down, I tweak, I got a stupid one of those big giant buckets in my backyard, and that's my testing tank. But you learn a lot. And I'm telling you, man, like as much as you can learn off YouTube, there's nothing for fishing and experience.
Mm-hmm.
And really, you can learn so much fishing off a dock.
Yeah.
Everybody drives these fancy boats and avionics and whatever, but honestly,
you sure like avionics.
Okay, give it to Lake Master. Okay, so is it Lake Master? Dude, if I showed you how old my Lowrance is on my boat, you'd laugh. Like I was showing my wife, I go, okay, I think it's time because I can't zoom in anymore into the map, and it just all I see is icons.
All bogged down with waypoints and
waypoints it's just old technology, right? And it's defeating sometimes knowing, when you go fishing with somebody with all the toys and stuff like that, and you learn what's out there, what you should be looking for.
Mm-hmm.
You definitely want this stuff, but really the reality of it is that the average Canadian goes out on the weekend, whatever, or they're just a cottager, and they're literally fishing off the dock. But I mean, I've learned and sometimes caught some of the biggest fish of my life just playing around the dock, playing, whether it's a night bite or that 2:00 bite or whatever it is. It's knowing when to throw a top water and when they'll, when they're milling around, when they're cruising and that kind of stuff. I've learned so much. And then about baits, you learn so much about lures and the intricacies of.
Yeah.
I'm getting back on that. Sorry.
Kind of what the Canadian industry seems to like, or maybe just the industry in general, is like we get hung up really easily on like the highest end technology and the newest stuff and the very small like tournament market, and you kind of, I find myself anyway, like forgetting that most people that fish don't care. Like they just are fishing a couple times a summer, just want something solid and good advice, and I feel like that gets bypassed a lot too by like going super technical and
but it is amazing though, even sort of the old timers guys that are in the little tin boats, they're not down, they're not like, they understand it. I remember going to a lake and the guy was talking to me and goes, you get these Ned things? He goes, they love those Ned things, just like and the guy's probably in his 70s, but he knew exactly what to do with them. He knew where to fish them. It's kind of cool. So I mean, they still do learn from the super technical stuff, but really, I'm going to say 80% of our business is in the average, cottage angler that just, paddles in their canoe. They stand on their dock. They go off their paddle or their pontoon boat.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of that stuff is still in Canada. The number one selling fishing rod is a 6'6" 2-piece spinning rod.
Yeah.
Medium action.
Yeah.
And you can fish any species, whether it's crappie, perch, bluegill, whatever, to pike and walleye. So we got to cater to those people as well, right? So it's a fine line when you're creating content. Getting back to content, it's like it's being entertaining, giving good information, being genuine, that kind of thing. And sometimes flashy isn't everything. It's sometimes this is what people want to see. Sometimes it's off of an iPhone. You look at Instagram, how much great content is just shot. Guy goofing around, and G-Man, Gerald Swindle, he's master at that. He just being himself in the boat, right? And he said the other day, he goes, I'm not an influencer, whatever. I just tell you about what stuff that I like to do, what I do daily and whatever. And that's, it's kind of a testimony to what people will want to see, right?
Did you ever work with him?
I haven't. I know, he came in, because of the ICAST too, the last few years is not, because of COVID, we weren't going down to Florida or stuff. And he was rather new to the team. We never have. We'll probably work with him a little bit more because, we're introducing in Canada that his series of signature rods and reels, which I can't wait to get my hands on. I just sent you actually a reel yesterday, one of his reels. But I'm waiting for the rods because, this is the cool thing. I get to talk about fishing gear every day, and it's my job, right?
Yeah.
So, I jump on a Skype call or a text message with Ricky down at 13 Fishing, and we're, he just understands fishing rods.
Mm-hmm.
He just gets it, and he gets that. Hey, and I'm not slamming companies that want to put the highest modulus graphite blank or a nano resin to create the lightest whatever, but if I can chuck a lure further with a composite blank, I'm going to go for the composite blank every day, and it's going to cost me $100, not $400. Because it does the job. Like if it's designed to do the job, I would much rather fish. And you can see kind of in the background here, I'm playing with stuff, but I'm always looking for whether it's the ultimate little rod for throwing what's the Ott's Garage, a little tiny one,
the tiny 3
top water bait, whatever it is, and some of those lower modulus rods just do better. You get better action out of your top water baits with a certain action rod. So it's not just I'd love to
not
sell.
Always the most expensive one that's the best rod. Like my favorite rods are those Omen Blacks, and it's just because they suit my style and I like the feel of them, and they're like $150. Like the rods I used to use, you would be able to buy 4 of those for the price of one. And I definitely haven't caught any less fish because of it. So
no,
I'm looking forward to the swindle ones too, because I know they're going to be, they're in a reasonable price range and they're not going to be garbage. For sure not.
So, and then my problem is I grew up watching guys like that, so my hook set's about the same as him.
Yeah, you Bill Dansom?
I must be brothers from G-Man. Like I just swing.
Everything goes.
And Big Jim McLaughlin swings, and I think hey Jim, I hope you watch this. I'm gonna tell him to watch it.
Well, I think I
swing harder than Jim. No,
you swing harder than Big Jim.
I'm pretty small. I gotta get some leverage going, But I don't get out as fishing as often as I want, and I took my wife fishing the other day.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, never teach your wife and kids to throw a bait caster, because
my wife can throw one pretty good.
Oh no, it's not that. It's that the rod you want to go throw, they already got it in their hands, right? Like my girls can throw a bait caster.
Nice.
Oh yeah, and my wife's the same way. So, and I can never find the one I want.
Well, quit putting them in the mail and sending them to me, and put a couple in your boat.
But anyway, so we go out, and I would say, when you haven't fished a lake for a while and you're kind of fishing on memory, or whatever, and it wasn't going well. It was like, this is not right. Everything looks right. The water levels are unbelievably high in a place that by now is terribly shallow. So I got water under pads and stumps that had 2 feet of water over top of them. I said that we should be just killing these fish. And so the first fish that hits in some lily pads, like I send it to the moon. And it was on for about 2 seconds before I cracked it off. And and so I landed a few on crankbaits, and then I get to this beautiful dock. Like there's a piece of water that I've never fished before, and I find this back channel. It's got like 12 feet of water sweeping right against an island with lily pads on the bank, and then there's a dock.
Yep.
I'm like, there's going to be a fish here. So I just sort of drift by and throw a jig in underneath it, and it eats it right away. And I set the hook, and it was maybe like I'll say a 3-pounder or whatever. And I got so excited. Like I jacked that thing so hard, and it went into the T-bar and broke me off. And it's like, this is not good. She goes, well, maybe if you didn't, like set the hook so hard.
Maybe you should like start flipping with your crankbait rod or something, and just adapt that way, like playing your slice kind of deal.
Yeah. Well,
that's part of the fun. Those Bill
I'll blame. You know what? I'm going to blame this one on.
What's that?
I'm going to blame it on Seth Fider.
Why?
Because I'm watching his wired to fish videos on how FG knot is the greatest thing ever, and I fish 30-pound braid and whatever. That's not good for all of us. Yeah. Especially if you're a rookie at the FG. Like I fish it for like lighter stuff, spinning gear and everything. Mm-hmm. But I thought I'd try it for flipping and pitching, and I'm gonna have to modify some gear, I think. Yeah.
Well, he doesn't put it on a broomstick. He's just got like 30-pound braid and like a 2-power rod or whatever you want to call it. It's like a medium rod.
Yeah.
You use it on your big telescopic pool cue, you're going to have some issues.
Pretty much. So.
Yeah. No, he makes it look easy though.
Especially. I don't know about you, but it's the ones that you lose that you remember like your entire life. You just remember those big fish that, whether it's an LDR or those ones. I've caught some big fish in my life. Yeah. And I remember them, but not like the ones that you go, oh, that was big, like big. And
so many times they're not what you think. It's easy to say that. Like I got one in my mind that's haunting me right now, but there have been so many times like in tournaments where, like you flip in there and get like the big toilet bowl flush boil, like you spook and you crack it and it's like a 230 and like,
oh yeah.
I always look at my partner and I'm like, if I would have lost that, I would have thought it was a 6-pounder. It's just happened so many times.
I probably agree with you.
That's what I tell myself to like put polysporin on the wounds. Like that's the only way to get over it, I think.
Yeah. I mean, you also remember, the ones that it's the ones where it's like the perfect hit. Like you just know you made the perfect cast, whether it's the top water getting sucked down or whatever it is, you just know that like, and your buddy's watching at the same time. Those are the ones, or you're leaning over, like just sort of watching your buddy's line because you have this like spidey tingling going on. Like there's a fish there. And then they get it and it's like, get the net.
Yeah.
Right. Get the.
I always try to downplay the size. I'm bad for that in case I lose it and then my partner won't be mad at me.
Yeah.
Like I fish with my wife a lot and I always just say, it's not a big one, but maybe just sneak grab the net just in case.
Back in my old tournament days, it was like in Bassmaster, you couldn't use a net. You probably still can't use a net, whatever. But so like you had to be like Bassmaster, don't bring a net. Tournament, right? This is like
in a tournament where you're allowed net.
Yeah, I don't know. We were kids. Like honestly, I was fishing tournaments when I was, I think, 18. We were probably my brother fished with me for a few years, for a bit. My cousin fished with me. We were just kids. We just had fun fishing. We fished anything, but yeah, it was like we had to land them. The way that was Larry Nixon or anybody, those guys. Boat side, flip.
That's cool.
Flip them in the boat, and then watching some of those fish. Just you get a fish on a. Sorry, I'll say the brand. You get a fish on a popper.
Yeah.
Right. And it hit 2 feet from the boat and it just made like 5 power runs, big smallmouth, and they just, make you cry when they come off.
Yeah. Oh, no net. That's the worst part about like going down to these like the Bassmaster things. Like, no net is not a thing that happens anywhere around here. There's no like single tournaments that have no net. I'm sure there's none around you unless they're like, I don't really know. And then you go down to like the biggest derby of your life, and you don't get a net anymore. It's terrifying.
And then you realize why they swing fish and whatever. Although I see them, the big thing is getting them boat side, right, by the console.
Scooping them, like lipping them is people have realized that's just kind of like all for show. Unless it's a largemouth coming right at you, it's all about the scoop. Like lipping them is the old school way.
I think it started with the crankbaits, actually. Like guys barely hooked. They're on one of those herring bites or whatever.
Yeah,
fish has got a big, DT 14 or 16 hanging out of its mouth, and I mean, I've been hooked so many times, like stupidly, just being stupid. So yeah, I think that's kind of where it all started.
That makes sense.
We're all stupid anyways, right? I'm totally guilty of trying to lip a walleye.
Come on.
Oh yeah, just
Why?
I don't know, just excitement. It's like gill landing a pike, right? You think it's a good idea until you slice your hands to bits.
When did you try to lip a walleye?
I don't know. It was probably up there. I was probably with Matt sorry, I was going to say Matt Ryberg, because we did a shoot with him up there. You know him.
I know Matt well.
Yeah. Matt's a good guy, and like I feel for these guys that are all those lodge owners. This has been tough, and when they're every time, whether we work with them as pro staff or we do some marketing stuff with them, we did some filming with them. They'll become your friends. Until you see your friends hurting, like through stuff like that, COVID was like these pandemic things was crazy.
Oh, it was hard to watch.
And we got another, but I was going to say with Costco probably. Brian Bogdan up there.
Okay.
He's up north of
Winnipeg. Like Weeb and Siemens go up there, right?
Yeah. Amazing place, but same thing. But I'm sure I likely tried lipping a walleye there. It's ridiculous. The fishings were pretty ridiculous.
In the winter? Like ice
No.
Okay.
No, I can see me doing it. I'd probably have sliced my hands up a bit, landing fish in the ice, when you're just diving for them. They're coming off.
Yeah.
And they're falling down backwards. So I've likely done that. Yeah.
Okay. So you're a bit of a wild man in the boat. Like you come across pretty calm, but you set the hook like a maniac. It sounds like you just black out and swing.
Yeah, I talk a lot in the boat.
And when a fish comes up boat side, you don't care about teeth. You're just going for it.
I'm just going,
I think we got to get out one of these days. I got to see this intensity. Yeah.
I wish I'd fished way more up there. I mean, everybody always, has these dreams of going, but you guys have some fantastic fishing. I watched Brian fish that Atikokan tournament.
Yeah.
And we had one of our previous presidents, Roger Cannon, had a buddy up there. His name's Glenn Rawlings. Okay. Lives on this little private lake just out from Atikokan.
Yeah.
He has the most ridiculous setup for a house. Like this river flows into the lake, and Roger had his wedding there. And I'm getting off on stories and these canyons.
All good.
But the place was like a dream because he had 5 and 6 pound bass, and I'm talking fish we weighed.
Yeah, real 5 and 6
like
pound.
Real 5 and 6 pound bass, like for like a mile or maybe a mile of his river, and then open out into his lake. And so we had every one of our sales reps at this meeting, and there's like 8 of us standing on the end of his dock. And we're like every cast, we have a double or triple of 4 to 6 pound smallmouth. And they're crushing any like you got 2 chug bugs coming across the water a foot apart, and they just go boop. Like the most ridiculous thing. And so everybody went somewhere. I'm getting off on this weird tangent, but it's one of those stories. It's like the most. I gotta go back there someday.
Yeah,
we stole his boat. We stole his little aluminum boat to go up his river, and it's pencil reeds all on either side of it with this little river flowing down the middle. And Dave Neal, who's actually in charge of PD for Global now, he's in the front of the boat, like kind of spying for rocks or anything, so we don't hit it because we don't know where we're going.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden he starts shouting top of his lungs, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa!" Right? So I stop, and he goes, "Oh my word! There's like hundreds of smallmouth. They're all like 4-pounders, and they're stacked like steelhead." Like they were just like, and so we kind of like spooked that spot, I guess, whatever. So we kind of went up and we just basically started firing chud bugs up this creek. Mm-hmm. And three of us in the boat
ran them over.
Three of us in this boat sat there for 2 hours. I mean, if people could have heard us, like the laughter and giggling and whatever, it was like just honestly 3 chug bugs coming down a creek side by side, and they would just go boop, boop, boop.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything like, I honestly have never seen, and probably never will. I don't know. I know you could see like, they're like 6-inch long leeches swimming through the creek. I don't know what they were doing, but it was just magical. And here we are in this little tin boat, things covered in weed and whatever. The one guy that was working for us at the time, by the end of it, he had lost so much line off his reel from getting tangles and whatever. He had about 20 feet of line on there, and he's still trying to cast just to get.
Yeah, that's cool that places like that still exist, especially around there. That's just like, it's like a different strain of smallmouth.
No, but then he did drag us into that. What do they call? I forget. No, I'm the worst. Is it the flood waters or?
Yeah, we were just talking about, or I was just talking about that earlier, going through the weights, and the guys that won had pretty much 44 pounds for 10.
Yeah, wow.
440 an average up here is pretty wild, and that's with 110 boats on the lake and like under not great conditions. So. Yeah,
what a great spot. I mean, we more or less fished some walleye and the odd smallmouth, but the stupid walleye would hit a husky jerk right under the boat, like a pike or a bass would. It was incredible place to fish. So when I see that, I always got like this little memory up there with the smallmouth bass fishing, because not a lot of people do it up there.
No, I mean they do now, like it's getting more popular, but I mean they used to be just considered a trash fish not that long ago.
And I mean you do have the all year round smallmouth seasons. For a guy like me, that's pretty cool.
Right Yeah, I forgot that doesn't really exist down there.
No. I mean, we're third week in July usually before we can fish. Or sorry, third week July. Third week in June. Sorry.
Yeah.
Which we we have Lake Erie. You used to be able to go to the States more often. That Lake Erie side, U.S. side, it's got some incredible fishing. That's where Derek Strube he's a master. That guy. That kind of water.
He's in that big, like 24-foot class thing.
Oh, listen! When you fish the Great Lakes, well, you fish Sturgeon Bay, and I know it gets pretty bad. Right?
Yeah, but there's always there's a launch in every bay, and
is there? That's one thing about US is man, they treat anglers right.
Yeah,
it's hard. Right?
Big contrast and boat ramps.
Absolutely, but when I've made some pretty epic runs with Derek in that tuna boat, and you're like just happy. You're so happy because I've run Erie with him in bass boats before, and I mean you don't have kidneys. You're chewing on your kidneys by the end of it.
Yeah, it can't be good for you over time.
No,
it's gotta be so bad.
I call him the tuna rig, his tuna rig, but honestly, it's a lifesaver. And what do you got? Probably like a 150-inch trolling motor shaft.
He's making it work. He's still killing it. I don't even know if he's allowed to. That thing might be too big to even fish like a pro level event. They have restrictions, horsepower restrictions.
Horsepower, yeah. He's not running he's running a Skeeter this year.
Oh, he doesn't have the big super
rig. Campion, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I saw him standing in front of it, and like his head was barely at where the plug was for the bilge pump.
Yeah,
It was so big.
And then I met him. He was heading down to Lake Ontario to do some pre-fishing last year, and he needed some drop shot hooks or something. And so I met him at a car parking lot, and he's in the boat, and I go to hand it to him, and the gunnel's like past my head. It's like I can't even reach my hand. It's so big. But honestly, Great Lakes are just another creature, and
that's
bass boats aren't where it is. Like that tournament at St. Lawrence, the fact that they got 4 days of
flat
calm,
never going to happen again.
It never will. You were talking about, and I know they use them at Sturgeon Bay, but those floggers, like you were talking about electronics and whatever, but they're just old school is still very effective for a lot of things.
Yeah,
but it's just like
using those things. You ever use one?
Yeah, it's kind of neck breaking, back
ribs.
breaking,
ribs just kill. You're not flogging out of that big.
I think when I know Derek and Bob Azumi go fish that one. I think it's Derek that does the flogging and Bob does the fishing.
Yeah, him. So there's that team. Well, this is always the joke. There's Azumi and Strube. And then Terry McClymont and Darren Bohannes used to fish it together. And we could always tell it was one of those teams because they were always shorter than the talons on the back of the boat. That was like the threshold. You could tell who you were dealing with. So hopefully one of them's listening. I don't mean any offense. I'm going
to send it to Derek. I was like, we were making fun of you, Derek. He's enjoying it. It's good to see guys in the industry. As we he's retired now and he's enjoying fishing. Just loves his saltwater fishing.
Yeah.
I'm any fisherman loves any kind of fishing. I go to Florida and I always got a 4-piece rod packed in my bag, even when my kids are trying to sit on the beach or whatever. And I'm hitting every tackle store down there.
Yeah, you're an addict, hey? Is everyone before I let you go, I got to ask about like your work environment a little bit.
Okay.
Are you the main like addict, or are you got some coworkers that are just as wild as you when it comes to it?
Yeah, we're all, I mean, Dave Neal he's big into salmon, loves his salmon fishing.
Yeah.
Loves it, but has a cottage in sort of like the Muskokas where he grew up fishing Lakers and smallmouth bass. That was his thing. So you got him. He's like the head of PE. You got Chris Hockley, who is avid fisherman. He's now in charge of VMC, North American VMC, Suffolk, Lure Jensen. So yeah, we're all just, it's cool in that scenario. Like we can talk hours.
Yeah.
You feel guilty sometimes. You feel guilty sometimes. I should be working, but then you go, well, this is kind of work related, but it's usually fishing. Usually it's me telling, feedback from you guys, like to these guys, because in some cases, like Chris Hockley, he's spearheading development of everything VMC. And you're going to see some cool stuff coming out next year that probably it's going to set the industry bar, in my opinion, when some of this stuff comes out. And not to give too much away, but I know you've seen little bits and pieces. But we've been selling a Japanese brand in our company as a distributor, for years, and when I can say that I can use the VMC brand as much as that Japanese brand. That's cool. Like, right.
Yep.
And
I like it
and have confidence. So,
Cyril's a hook nut. Hey.
Yeah.
We had a hook conversation with him, and he knew every small like Japanese brand, and he knew a bunch of tricks about it. And that was
That's his I mean, that's his passion. He works on it. I mean, we as a team, we brought out a cool Canadian, and you've seen them for a couple of years now. We've been selling those bladed trebles, which have been so cool. I mean, everything from ice fishing, top waters, that thing's cool. But then he helped me develop a line of musky trebles with that bladed treble.
Nice one.
And they're cool. Like, it's just cool having those little things that you can put your name on and go, that's going to make a lure better. And I got some musky friends that are like, that's all what I needed. You know, that's what I've been waiting for, and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Well,
but then we build some, like products for average people. We do this project they're called French hooks. They sell tens of thousands of these things in Quebec for like brook trout fishing. And it's just basically a leader with a small little trout hook on it.
Yeah, a little snell deal.
And they put it behind a spoon that acts as a flasher. And it's the deal. But being able to bring out something that's, the stuff above, great. It's great to work with that kind of stuff. But yeah, so we're all fish nuts. Yeah. Every one of our pros is there's a difference between getting somebody that's a personality and getting people that are just fish. Like I talked about Jeff Chisholm. Mm-hmm. I mean, the guy he's nuts. The amount of tackle that guy owns. He's probably in our top 25 of accounts in Canada.
No kidding.
Yeah, he's tackling that. In fact, if you've been on our Instagram page, you see his quad on there quite often. It's this massive, I don't know, I think it's a Polaris with those huge tracks, and
he's on Quinty lots, hey?
Yeah, Quinty guru, like he just those big open water walleye.
Yeah, the super magnums.
Those, if you ever get a chance. I mean, there's big, it's incredible. All the Great Lakes have taken off. Like, I see the fishing that they're doing in Lake Superior now, and people are just like actually targeting these fish.
Yeah.
It's wild. Like, we got another guy, Rob Henry, down here, he's a trolling guy, and he's fishing Lakers now, getting what I would call like Great Bear Lake sized Lakers out of Lake Ontario. And it wasn't, when I started at Normark, and when I went to school, like my background, I'm a fish and wildlife technologist. Actually, I went to Fleming College. Nice. But then they talked about, basically the lake trout population being extinct out of Lake Ontario, like the natural populations.
Just because they were showing up and cracking them from shore, or you think that?
I don't know. I think like this typical spawning areas, maybe, or something. They weren't seeing reproduction of young, I guess. But
right.
And so they stocked Blake. They did all kinds of other stuff, and I have no idea if it's just the introduction of zebra mussels, the clarity of the lakes, different species. I know we have alewife, but those fish are giant. They're giant lake trout. It's awesome seeing. Cool thing is you can troll them, but you can also vertical jig them. Mm-hmm. Like, we got guys that'll go with rip and wraps.
Yeah.
And
Dave, hey?
Huh?
That's your favorite?
That's my handle. That's my Instagram handle. At rip and wrap.
I figured it must be your favorite.
No, I mean, it's another one of those winners. No, I mean, rattling wraps as a kid.
Oh,
there was almost nothing better, right?
No.
And we almost stopped using stuff like that because it becomes passé, or jerkbaits came out and became popular. But then I tell you, maybe I'm giving secrets away, but you go up fish with Matt Ryberg for a day in the spring.
Oh yeah, he loves them.
Like a holographic rattling wrap. It's not the prettiest looking bait or anything, but man, they smack them.
Yeah. No, that's a good one. That was like part of the classic collection, but.
See that, there's my box, like wrapping them. But yes, rip and wraps. But it's that you can fish it anywhere, in any way. Like, you can jig it, you can cast it, you can ice fish with it. There's just something. Some lures like that. They just plain catch fish.
Yeah, they're timeless too.
Right, and so it's kind of cool. Yeah, I like the rip and wrap.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah. Well,
no, honestly, my favorite lure is the one that's catching fish at that.
I like that. Yeah.
At that moment, honestly.
Yeah.
Like,
that's my favorite lure and my favorite technique too. Whatever's
right?
putting.
And your buddy always has it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So. Anyways.
I don't have enough. We're at a couple hours here.
Holy smoke. Okay. Sorry about that.
I don't think I have enough data on my floppy disk here to log this.
Well, I didn't get any swear words.
I'd only take up half an hour of your time.
Yeah.
I took about an hour and a half looking at this clock now. So anything you want to leave with?
Anything I want to leave with?
Anything you want to leave out there?
I'll tell you, there's no shame in fishing pink.
What's that?
Okay, it's an old. This is before frogs, man.
Is that a mouse?
Yeah, see it
Pink
there?
mouse.
It's an old. It's an old floating mouse, and it was a single hook. You used to rig it with a single hook. They weigh a ton. Like they weigh a ton, so you can cast them. I don't think anybody makes them anymore. But before frogs, before hollow body frogs, that's what we did. Or if you can remember Bob Zumi shows the head and moss boss.
Mm-hmm.
That was about the only thing sort of semi weedless top water. But anyway,
if you come up here, bring all your retro baits, and we'll just make a day just using those. Yeah. Like leave all the new stuff and just bring that.
Yeah, I'll do the old. I told you I knew Gussie like he was writing letters to me when he was like 12 years old.
Yeah, like Santa Claus style letters.
Yeah, like I'd love to get on your pro staff. I'd love to test out lures, and we would send him. The only thing he would ask for is it was like the balsa fat wraps.
Oh yeah, the blue chrome
or the Rattling fat wraps, and that's about it. And then we brought out like the skitter pop. And
baby.
And so anyways, but there's no shame in throwing pink, and there's no shame in throwing a what do you call it, Tiffany blue reel. I have no shame if it works.
Home green.
If it works or it catches fish, I'll throw it.
I like it. I like it. Well, it was good to have you on, bud. You've obviously been around this industry for a long time, and it's cool to see the passion like still there. You know, you talk to people that have been working a job for 25 years, and they usually don't have a lot of good to say about it and can't wait to retire. But in talking with some of you guys in the industry that still have the passion, it's cool to see that, you know, it's still there and the fire's still burning.
Yeah. I think deep down, we all think we're 18 still.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. But, you know, and we enjoy working with guys like yourself, and it's great to see people investing like time and in their passions and to spread their knowledge. That's one thing, you know, you see with you guys is whether it's you or Brian or Gussie, you know, you're giving up a lot of secrets to guys, but it's for the benefit of other anglers. It's benefit to your sponsors or to your own business. You know, I know you got your own lures, but it's cool to see, and it's something we can't not teach the next kids. Honestly, COVID was good for a bit there. Like everybody wanted to get out and fish, and sales were great and stuff. But it's keeping that fire burning under kids, keeping them out. I know it's crazy. I live in a pretty rural town, farm town, or whatever, but it's hard to get kids that want to fish. It's like, where do they fish? Because everything is like off limits. During COVID, my own town, I'll knock my own town because I thought it was ridiculous. People could drive their bikes down the creek, but they weren't letting people fish, you know, for the steelhead run.
Right.
And it's like, it's a rite of passage for like kids in this area. Opening a day of trout season was like, so, you know, keeping that passion going for kids and that next generation and teaching them respect it and everything. There's respect.
Yeah.
But,
We had a big talk about that prior to the intro, like about fish care and how a lot of it's kind of needs to be retaught and it's kind of faded a little bit with, but
sure.
I hear where you're coming from, and bud, thanks again. Thanks again for coming on, and good. I still haven't formally met you, but it sounds like you might pack up your pencil box.
I got bug Gussie someday, because like most of the conversations the last few years that now he's so busy, but it was always about deer hunting, because I love deer hunting.
Yeah.
And you guys got some ridiculous deer up there.
I blasted a big one off his stand a few years ago. So if you come up, I'll just guide you on it.
That's perfect.
He'll be down at the tournament.
Make sure and put lots of alfalfa hay and
bud,
and beans or peas or whatever he puts out there.
We'll load her up for you.
Yeah, I'm not shy. When it comes to a big buck, it doesn't, I'm buddies with the guy that works for the Catching Deers guys, the Rut Daniels.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
That's totally
love
me.
It. Absolutely love it.
Like everything it's not going 20.
You hunt like you set the hook, eh?
No.
We don't have time to get into it. Another time.
I think that's why I went to school for fish and wildlife, just to learn more about fish, like just put it into action. How can I be a better hunter? How can I be a better fisher? And now most of that information is available now through guys like yourself.
Right.
So that's cool.
Right. Well, keep doing what you're doing. Keep texting me all these new lures and sending them, because that's pretty sweet to have.
Yeah.
And thanks again, bud. I'm sure I'll talk to you right away here.
Okay.
Appreciate it, man. Talk to you soon. Thank you very much.
Edit out about 2 hours.
No. She's all going up. I got it just enough disk space if we cut her off now.
Okay, bye.
All right, boss. Take care.